More than 200 candidates have reportedly stood down from the second round of France's legislative elections to avoid splitting the opposition to the far right. Now, the candidates belong to either President Macron's centrist coalition or parties to his left. The far right, meantime, the National Rally, dominated the first round of voting on Sunday. It is now positioned to win at least a relative majority this weekend. Now, if it gains enough seats, the party plans to make 28-year-old Jordan Bardella the youngest prime minister in French history. Rym Momtaz is a consultant research fellow at the International Institute of Strategic Studies, and she joins us now. Yeah, these are quite extraordinary circumstances. Things are changing by the hour. Given the compromises with the center and the left, do you believe that this means that the National Rally is unlikely to hold the balance of power, that in fact Jordan Bardella will not be prime minister?
Hi, Paula. Thank you for having me. I think yes, to a certain extent. What we are seeing right now, because of all of this horse trading, is that the chances of the far right of getting an absolute majority and completely dominating the parliament after Sunday are diminishing and diminishing considerably. But that doesn't mean that they won't still possibly have a relative majority and so have the biggest caucus in the parliament. If that is the case, they would still have the opportunity to form a government, but in a parliament that is much more divided, much less stable, and where they will be very vulnerable to no confidence votes.
And when we talk about those no confidence votes and actually trying to set policy, in technical terms, are we looking at a hung parliament, or are we looking at more of a paralyzed parliament, if you will?
So far, we're looking at a hung parliament as the most likely outcome of this election, which also means a lot of paralysis, political deadlock, and paralysis for France, even on foreign policy and defense issues, by the way. It could become a paralyzed government, but before we get to a paralyzed government, or as we're getting to that, we would have to go to snap elections again, but we're not there yet, in case of a no confidence vote, of course.
You know, I am very curious because obviously Macron surprised so many, apparently many within his own party, by calling these snap elections. He was banking on the fact that voters would retreat to the center and perhaps a little bit further left and not go to the far right opponents. He was wrong. So I'm wondering, now that French voters have seen the outcome, do you think that has been tempered a bit? I mean, do you still believe that Macron could fare better in the next round?
Paula, I think what we learned last week is that the vote for the far right in France is no longer a protest vote. It has become a vote of support. 10,600,000 French people decided to vote for the far right. What we also learned is that the historic turnout was in favor of the far right, that the far right, in a way, has come to symbolize hope for many in France who had abstained in former elections. This means we are truly witnessing a political earthquake in France. Things have changed. The sociology of the voters have changed. They are truly over all of the mainstream parties. And so I'm not sure that Macron is going to be able to recover from the big defeat that he already suffered last week, and that he might suffer yet again at the end of the week. His brand is very tarnished among the French. What may save the day may be the left-wing coalition, but it's also very unlikely.
Rym, fascinating what you're telling us, and you had already pointed out that if this happens, this has ramifications not just for France, but all over Europe and beyond. When it comes to that constituency, I was shocked in terms of tuning into the French elections in the last few weeks that it is young people who very much are looking at the far right as the future. Why?
Young people, workers, they have gone way beyond their nucleus and their previous nucleus. Why are young people voting for the far right? I don't think we have all of the answers yet. What is clear is that they seem to feel like the far right is listening to them more, is closer to their concerns, something that unfortunately Emmanuel Macron, but also his party, have had a very hard time, communicating to voters. Empathy, sympathy, which Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella have been able to do much better. It doesn't mean that they have answers for their concerns, their issues related to security, to migration, but also just to cost of living. It doesn't mean that they will be able to resolve all of these issues. But what we are seeing is that a big enough proportion of the French people is willing to at least give them a chance.
Rym, you've really set the table there well for us as we continue to watch this second round. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Paula.